Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 10 Part 73 based on novel. So let's start. The sky was filled with slowly drifting specks of light, as though the entire place had turned slightly dreamy. The unique reincarnation ripple pulsed, causing one's eyes to become rather dazed. Lindong quietly sat in the air as he looked at the specks of light that filled the sky. Excitement flashed deep within his pitch-black eyes. Lindong had already touched reincarnation. However, there was still a substantial distance to the reincarnation stage. This opportunity could greatly shorten this distance. These reincarnation essences were left behind by the countless powerful ancestors of Great Desolate Sect. Although they had died, all of them continued to guard their sect. Now that the culprit who had destroyed their sect had been killed, they were finally able to put down the unwavering persistence in their hearts. These wills began to disappear, leaving behind their comprehension towards reincarnation. Miss Jiang Shui, this is also an opportunity for you. Don't miss it. Lindong looked at Jiang Shui on the mountaintop and smilingly said. Jiang Shui lightly nodded upon hearing this. She rubbed Yinin's small head and sat down. She was naturally well aware of how important these reincarnation essences were to her. On the other hand, Yinin sat on her rock by the side. Her tiny hands held her small face as she shook her two snow-white legs, a look of extreme boredom. The reincarnation essences drifted before her eyes, but could not catch her interest. However, there seemed to be a mysterious glow slowly surging deep within those large eyes of hers. Lindong sat down in the air. His body seemed to have become a black hole as the brilliant specks of light in the sky endlessly surged towards him and ultimately poured into Lindong's body. Following the entrance of the boundless reincarnation essences into Lindong's body, a faint feeling of profoundness began to quietly reverberate within Lindong's heart. His originally clear mind gradually became blurry under the erosion of the reincarnation essences. He seemed to have fallen into an indescribable state. However, he was unable to completely enter it. Hence, the only way was to immerse oneself within this feeling and gradually comprehend it. This was a field of darkness that was void of all light. Inexhaustible evil slowly flowed within the darkness, an evil that did not belong to this world. There were a couple of blood-red lamps in the middle of the darkness. These lamps were as thin as bones. Endless demonic chi spread as they slowly burned. One of the blood lamps suddenly flickered. The evil flame originally present gradually weakened, before it completely disappeared. As the lamp was extinguished, a ripple was suddenly emitted from deep within the darkness. One could vaguely see several black figures within the darkness. The ninth has been killed. A raspy voice slowly echoed from within the darkness. Dead? Ha, what an unlucky fellow. He said back then that he was going to deal with the previous owner of the devouring ancestral symbol. In the end, all communication was lost. However, since his blood lamp was still present, he should have only been sealed. Why has he suddenly been killed? Another eerie voice sounded. He likely encountered a formidable foe. The ninth also has the Devil Emperor armor. It would be extremely difficult for an ordinary person to kill him. We have been searching for his location all these years, but did not receive any response. It seems that the owner of the devouring ancestral symbol back then did possess some ability. It might have been those ancient masters. I have detected the existence of the spatial master in the demon region. However, only a brief exchange occurred before the both of us withdrew. From what I can tell, that fellow's strength has already completely recovered. All of you should be a little more careful. Some time earlier, we were nearly detected by the Thunderbolt Master. Thunderbolt Master? Why do we need to be afraid of him? If he dares to come, we will use the opportunity to get rid of him. If the Thunderbolt Master falls into a predicament, the other ancient masters will also be forced to show themselves. Our preparations are not yet complete. I'm afraid that the same result from back then would occur if we end up fighting. What should we do now? It is almost time. We should begin our plan. We going to act? After enduring for many millenniums, I'm truly a little anxious. Let's prepare. They will no longer have any hope in this world war, Inch. The evil aura within the darkness gradually disappeared, while the blurry figures also suddenly vanished. Under this silence, a huge storm seemed to slowly brew as it engulfed the world. 10 days had passed by the time Lindong withdrew from that mysterious state. He opened his somewhat hazy eyes and looked at the familiar surroundings in front of him. Lindong was quiet for a moment. He deeply inhaled a breath of air as his vision began to clear. Yuan power gathered within his extended hand. He could feel the surging rich reincarnation ripples within it. These fluctuations were much stronger than before. However, it had yet to fully reach the reincarnation stage. Still a little lacking. Lindong muttered to himself. He could feel that he was currently at the peak of the samsara stage, and there was only half a step to the reincarnation stage. He only needed to cross this half step in order to truly become a reincarnation stage expert. However, it was not easy to cross this boundary. Lindong smiled faintly. He was not disappointed. Although he had numerous lucky encounters, if the reincarnation stage was really so easy to reach, countless geniuses would not have failed to touch it in their entire lives. He had a feeling that he would very soon be able to take this step. "You've awakened?" A soft and gentle voice was transmitted from a short distance away. Lindong lifted his head and saw Jiang Shui smilingly looking at him. The eyes of the latter seemed to have become a lot deeper. It was clear that she had also benefited greatly. Lindong nodded slightly and glanced at the mountain peak where the protector was currently seated in a dazed manner. Other than the blank expression that continuously surfaced in his eyes, there was the look of being relieved from the burden of revenge. He should regain some of his intelligence as he cultivates. "We must really thank you for what you have done for Great Desolate Sect. As the inheritor of Great Desolate Sect, I thank you on their behalf," Jiang Shui softly said. Lindong shook his head and said, "Great Desolate Sect is also a benefactor of mine, hence it is only right that I do this. Moreover, if the 9th Seat King was allowed to escape, he would end up becoming a huge thorn at my side. Therefore, there is no need to thank me." Jiang Shui smiled and extended her hand. There was a black glow on within it. The black glow seemed to be a set of broken armor which faintly gave off an evil aura. Lindong's eyes hardened upon seeing this. This thing was surprisingly the Devil Emperor armor. The 9th Seat King was killed by you, thus this should be your spoils of battle. Moreover, I believe that no one else will be able to enjoy it," Jiang Shui said. The demonic chi on the Devil Emperor armor was far too strong. It might be a divine object to those Yimo, but it was completely useless to them. This is some good stuff. Although the demonic chi is extremely rich, I believe that with its energy, it will be possible for that great desolate tablet to completely recover if you throw it into the mysterious divine palace and refine it. Yang's joyous voice sounded at this moment. Lindong lifted his brow. Allow the great desolate tablet to fully recover? Just look at how the darkness sensei had become comparable to a peak expert who had experienced one reincarnation tribulation after it fully recovered. How strong would the third-ranked Great Desolate Tablet on the ancient divine object ranking be if it fully recovered? It would likely be able to fight with those top experts who had experienced 2 reincarnation tribulations. Excitement rose within Lindong's heart when his thoughts reached this point. After which, he unceremoniously received the broken Devil Emperor armor and threw it into the mysterious divine palace to refine. "Let's get out of this place." Having dealt with the Great Wastelands Tablet's problem, Lindong's eyes scanned the area and said. Jiang Shui also nodded. She extended her hand and beckoned Yin Yin over. The latter happily ran towards her. Because they needed her to suppress the demonic chi in the past, Jiang Shui could only let her remain here alone. This little girl was naturally extremely excited now that she could leave. Lindong smiled upon seeing this. He waved his sleeve and space distorted. By the time the 3 of them regained their senses, they were already outside the Great Wastelands Tablet. Jiang Lei and the others had been waiting outside the Great Wasteland Tablet. They sighed in relief after seeing Lindong's group and the smile Jiang Shui wore on her face. Clearly, the problem that had greatly troubled them had already been resolved. Uncle Jiang Lei, since the problem has already been resolved, I will be heading back to the capital. Feel free to come and look for me if there is anything that you need help with. Lindong smiled towards Jiang Lei. He originally thought that he could quickly resolve this matter. It was unexpected that he would be delayed by 10 days. He could no longer stay now that he had resolved this problem. Jiang Lei was startled when he heard that Lindong was about to leave. He quickly glanced at Jiang Shui. We have troubled you this time. Jiang Shui smiled. Her pretty eyes looked meaningfully at Lindong. Lindong grinned. After which, he extended his hand and rubbed Yinin's small head as he said, find me if Yinyin experiences any changes in future. I will do my best to help. Big brother. Yinyin grabbed Lindong's sleeve in a somewhat reluctant manner. Lindong gave her a warm smile. After which, he chatted idly with her. In the end, his body shot forward and he quickly disappeared into the horizon. Jiang Shui stayed where she stood as she watched the distant figure vanish. Only then did the smile on her face slowly fade away. In the end, she softly sighed in somewhat bitter manner. If you like him, why did you not make him stay? Jiang Lei asked helplessly. This lass was really obstinate. From start to end, she had never revealed her feelings. I like him. It is better for me to bear this feeling alone. Moreover, it is not as though there will not be any chances to meet in future. Jiang Shui smiled slightly. She gently waved her hand as she turned around and left. That appearance of hers was rather free and at ease. Jiang Lei could only bitterly laugh upon seeing this. Have you resolved the matter? In a room within the Lin clan, Lin Xiao looked at Lindong, who had returned, as he smiled and asked. Lindong nodded. After which, he roughly explained the matters that had occurred within the Great Wastelands tablet. Lin Xiao's expression changed when he heard that there was actually such a powerful Yimo within the Great Wastelands tablet. He sighed quietly and nodded. If it was not for Lindong, there would likely be another great calamity. Father, I have been away for quite some time. I will perhaps return to Dao Sect tomorrow. Lindong handed a jade token to Lin Xiao and said. Shatter this jade token if any problems occurs. I will hurry back immediately. It was time for him to return to the sect after being away for such a long time. Moreover, he could also sense that Jutong's Yuan spirit in the ancestral stone was beginning to recover. It was likely that he would really like to see Dao Sect when he awakened. Lin Xiao received the jade token and nodded. After which, he smilingly said, That's right, you should go and see Miss Qingzhu. You brought her to our house only to disappear for 10 days. This is too rude. Lindong shook his head helplessly after seeing the gloating smile on Lin Xiao. I had originally thought that the matter would be very quickly resolved. It was unexpected for him to have been delayed for so long. Lindong headed for the courtyard after leaving the room where he saw Ling Qingzhu chatting with Liu Yang. The former merely glanced at Lindong when he appeared before withdrawing her eyes. Ha ha, Donger is back. Liu Yang smiled towards Lindong. After which, she stepped forward and patted Lindong's shoulders. After throwing a meaningful look towards Ling Qingzhu, she smilingly left. Lindong smiled bitterly and walked towards Qingzhu. Ling Qingzhu waved her sleeve gently. Her pretty eyes slightly lowered as she said in a faint voice, I will be returning to Nine Heaven's Supreme Purity Palace tomorrow. Although her tone appeared uncaring, Lindong could still hear an extremely faint trace of anger within. She had panicked slightly when she was being brought back by him in such a manner. Yet, Lindong had disappeared during this period of time. This undoubtedly caused her to feel awkward and angry. However, she had extremely good manners, and interacted with Liu Yang and Lindong's other elders with a smile. Nevertheless, it was inevitable that she would feel angry at Lindong for disappearing without telling her. He had brought her home, only to disappear. What was the meaning of this? Lindong hurriedly pulled her sleeve as he smiled bitterly and said, It is indeed my fault this time. Originally, I believed that I would be able to swiftly resolve the problem. I did not expect to be delayed for so long. Lindong observed Ling Qingzhu's pretty face as he spoke. I met the 9th Seat King of Devil Prison. 9th Seat King? Ling Qingzhu's expression changed. Having exchanged blows with the 7th Seat King, she naturally understood that just how terrifying those Yimo from Devil Prison with the title of Seated Kings were. They had failed to gain an advantage against the 7th Seat King despite their cooperation. Yet, Lindong had encountered the 9th Seat King alone? Are you all right? Ling Qingzhu raised her eyebrow. A trace of concern was present in her clear eyes as she looked towards Lindong. I'm fine. That fellow's strength was greatly reduced because he was sealed. However, I still had to battle him for a couple of days. Lindong's eyes spun with thought. He glanced at Ling Qingzhu and eloquently exaggerated the dangers when fighting the 9th Seat King. It was as though he had only obtained a narrow victory after barely evading the jaws of death. However, this attempt of his did not appear to be of much use against Ling Qingzhu. Her pretty face remained as unmoving as still water. There was no reaction no matter how Lindong exaggerated. Lindong could only helplessly stop after seeing that she was indifferent. It was indeed difficult to deal with an intelligent woman. Ling Qingzhu finally glanced at Lindong as he grew softer and softer. Her red lips curled slightly after seeing the latter's resentful face and her eyes became a little gentler. Although Lindong had exaggerated, a big battle was definitely unavoidable after meeting the 9th Seat King. I will not be coming again if you dare to do this next time. The originally resentful Lindong was startled when he heard the voice that had suddenly emerged from beside him. He laughed dryly and nodded. Rest assured that I will also bring you along the next time. Lindong sighed in relief. He had finally passed this trial. Are you returning tomorrow? Lindong changed the topic and asked. Yes. Ling Qingzhu lightly nodded and said. After all, I have been away for such a long time. Although the palace has many elders to maintain it, I cannot continue like this as the palace master. Coincidentally, I am also planning on returning to Dao Sect tomorrow. In that case, I will send you back to 9 Heaven's Supreme Purity Palace. Lindong nodded and said. I will go into cultivation seclusion and attempt to comprehend reincarnation when I return to the palace. It is likely that I will not come out for some time. Ling Qingzhu looked at Lindong and said, you should spend more time trying to understand the zenith sensing art. The way you sense it does not come from within. Currently, you are only at the entry level. This is far from sufficient if you wish to reach the level of those ancient masters. Lindong was stunned. His expression was complicated as he looked at Ling Qingzhu. She was indeed aware of his intentions with regards to learning the zenith sensing art. Ling Qingzhu avoided his gaze. After which, she headed out of the courtyard. You have been busy. Please rest. However, a hand suddenly grabbed her wrist as she was turning around. The warmth transmitted from it caused her alluring figure to tremble. She anxiously tried to escape, but the great strength from the hand prevented her from doing so. Slight panic was revealed on her usually aloof and pretty face revealed, what are you planning to, A force was suddenly transmitted from her hand. Subsequently, she lightly crashed into a firm chest. Next, her narrow and soft waist was firmly embraced by a pair of hands. Thank you. A soft apologetic voice sounded beside her ear before she could struggle. Ling Qingzhu's figure stopped moving as she stood there with a red face. She did not know what she ought to do. If this was someone else, it was likely that she would have drawn her sword and slashed him into two. However, she was unable to harden her heart against this fellow. All she could do was gently bite her lower lips and allowed him to take advantage of her. However, Lindong did not bring things any further. He merely hugged the person in his embrace in an attempt to relieve some of the apologetic feelings in his heart. The courtyard was quiet. It was a long time later before a lovely figure finally appeared at the gate to the courtyard. She saw the two figures hugging, and curled her small lips as she released an intentional soft snort. She might have been soft, but it immediately broke the atmosphere in the courtyard, and Ling Qingzhu abruptly recovered. She stared at Lindong in an embarrassed and angry manner. His actions had caused the latter's heart to pound harder. Before he could speak, however, Ling Qingzhu had already fled in panic. Such an appearance was completely different from her usual aloof and indifferent self. Lindong laughed dryly. He looked at Qingtan, who was covering her small mouth, and smiled in an embarrassed manner. Qingtan walked to Lindong's side. Her pretty eyes looked at the direction Ling Qingzhu had fled as she said, "Big brother Lindong, I recall that you still have a Ying Huan from Dao Sect, right? If you do this." Lindong felt his head swell upon hearing this. This girl was clearly looking for trouble. He immediately extended his hand and violently rubbed Qingtan's small head. A child should not utter such nonsense when it comes to the matters between adults. I am the master of Darkness Palace, not some little child, Qingtan said unhappily. Lindong extended his finger and chuckled as he flicked Qingtan's smooth forehead. "Big brother Lindong, are you returning to Dao Sect tomorrow?" Qingtan suddenly hugged Lindong's arm and happily asked. Lindong nodded. From her appearance, it was likely that she had heard it from Lin Xiao. "I want to go too." "No. Stay at home and keep father and mother company. Father and mother have agreed." "No? In that case, I will send a Yuan spirit message to Ying Huan and tell her what you did earlier. Are you asking for a beating?" The next day, Lindong looked at the lovely Qingtan, who smilingly followed behind him. All he could do was to shake his head in a displeased manner. He had finally experienced this girl's amazing pestering ability. Ling Qingzhu stood gracefully beside him. She was currently smiling and chatting with Liu Yang, who had come to send them off. "Father, mother, we are leaving." Lindong saw that it was almost time. He smiled and spoke towards Lin Xiao and Liu Yang. "Okay. Be careful." The Lin Xiao couple nodded. Lindong was no longer the youth from back then. They were aware of the achievements of their son, and this made them extremely proud. Lindong also grinned and replied. After which, he did not delay any longer. With a wave of his sleeve, the three of them had already turned into a ray of light and shot into the distance. They disappeared into the horizon in the blink of an eye. Lindong sent Ling Qingzhu back to Nine Heavens Supreme Purity Palace after leaving the Great Yang Empire. After a period of reconstruction, Nine Heavens Supreme Purity Palace was once again complete. The Lindong duo stayed for a while, before bidding her goodbye and headed straight for Dao Sect. Within half a day, the mountain range of Dao Sect once again appeared in their sights. Lindong's eyes scanned the area and paused for a moment. A lovely figure was seated on the cliff atop a mountain. Her long icy blue hair scattered downwards, and she gave off a chilling aura, causing the surrounding land to be covered in frost. Huan. Lindong was startled when he saw the familiar figure and hurriedly flew over with Qingtan. Meanwhile, the figure had also detected his return, and ripples appeared in her pretty but icy eyes. "You are back." Ying Huan stood up. A slight smile surfaced on her pretty face. "Why are you here?" Lindong smiled and asked. "I was waiting for you." Ying Huan's delicate hand lifted a strand of long icy blue hair and laughed softly. She said it as if it was the most normal thing in the world. Lindong was stunned. He gazed at Ying Huan's pretty face. Those icy blue eyes appeared like blue gemstones. Though they were completely icy, there was some gentleness within this air-freezing iciness. Compared to the past, she seemed to have become a little quieter. Lindong vaguely felt that something was amiss. However, he was unable to explain it. "You are still running around in this condition." Lindong sighed softly. He extended his hand towards her and said, "Let's head back." Ying Huan nodded. She smiled and a cold, slender hand held Lindong's hand. The iciness within her heart seemed to ripple as she felt the warmth in her palm, while the smile on her lips became even gentler. "You are Huan." Qingtan, who was following beside Lindong, looked at Ying Huan, who had changed greatly from back then. She was a little stunned as she asked, "Why have you become like this?" "Don't ask unnecessary questions." Lindong patted Qingtan's small head. After he pulled her along and directly headed towards Dao Sect. His eyes turned towards a mountain behind them just as he was about to enter Dao Sect and nodded in gratitude. The Flame Master stood there and watched the three of them enter Dao Sect. After which, he softly sighed with a complicated expression. After entering Dao Sect, Lindong was alone in the front, while Qingtan and Ying Huan followed behind. The two girls knew each other from before, and had even worked together against Yuan Kang. Hence, they were rather friendly. Now that they had met again, they gave off the feeling of things between them staying the same, although both of them had changed. Several Dao Sect disciples could be seen on the way back. When they saw that Lindong had returned, surprise and joy emerged in their eyes. Various warm and welcoming cries could be heard even from far away. Lindong gently smiled to the new disciples whose faces were still somewhat immature. From their eyes, he could see a kind of zeal. Such zeal was formed from belief, and for those who possessed this belief, if Dao Sect was to meet a similar fate as Great Desolate Sect in the very distant future, their wills will perhaps also continue to protect Dao Sect. The trio flew up onto the main mountain peak where Ying Xuanzi and a group of Dao Sect elders were already waiting in front of the main hall. When they saw Lindong return, smiles surfaced on their faces. Although the flames of war in the eastern Xian region had already been extinguished, the morale of the entire Dao Sect could only perfectly meld together when Lindong was around. Lindong bowed to Ying Xuanzi. After conversing for a while, he paused and said, "Sect Master, Senior Brother Jutong should be able to come out now." Upon hearing this, Ying Xuanzi's expression turned complicated. Soon after, he gently nodded as the numerous elders behind him cast their gazes over. Before Lindong appeared, Jutong had been a legend in Dao Sect. If he had been able to continue cultivating in Dao Sect, he would have perhaps long become the Dao Sect Master. Lindong gently waved his hand as gentle white light emerged from his palm. Soon after, the ancestral stone appeared. With a flick of his finger, a ray of light shined emerged from the ancestral stone. The light gradually gathered together, before transforming into a black-robed figure under everyone's watching eyes. It was Jutong. Jutong gradually opened his tightly shut eyes. Ying Xuanzi and the rest of the crowd standing before him entered his eyes. Soon after, his body slightly stiffened, as a complicated expression emerged on his face. His lips gently trembled, and he slowly lowered his body. Both knees touched the ground as a rather raspy voice echoed in front of the hall. "Master, disciple has returned." Ying Xuanzi's body started to shake at this moment. It seemed as if his usually calm face was about to lose control. He slowly walked forward and gently rubbed Jutong's head. His eyes filled with moisture as he softly said, "It's good that you're back, it's good that you're back." The numerous elders around them also silently sighed. They knew of how Jutong had suffered over the years. The Dao Sect legend from back then had almost become a tool of Yuan Gate, and had even been used against their Dao Sect. Back then, this disciple did not understand the big picture. "I let my emotions affect my decisions, and did not listen to Master's words. That was why such a calamity occurred." As he gazed at Ying Xuanzi's moist eyes, even with his temperament, tears involuntarily flowed from Jutong's eyes. Which youngster does not have his reckless moments? Ying Xuanzi gently chuckled. Soon after he turned slightly silent, "As long as you don't blame Master for being weak and unwilling to avenge you. As the Sect Master, Master naturally has to consider the entire sect." Jutong shook his head. He had never blamed Ying Xuanzi from the start. Just like Lindong back then, they both understood Ying Xuanzi. At times, choosing to make those seemingly weak decisions was even more courageous than using their lives to fight. Ying Xuanzi wiped the corners of his eyes, before he gazed at the incomparably enormous Dao Sect. His voice suddenly rang out across the entire sect, "My disciple, the entire Dao Sect welcomes you back." His voice echoed into the distance. Countless Dao Sect disciples were slightly stunned as they cast their gazes towards the main peak. Quickly after, joy immediately surged in their eyes. "That is, Senior Brother Jutong." Although many of the newer disciples were rather unfamiliar with this name, they could see the intense emotions on some of the older disciples' faces. Subsequently, earth-shattering cheers erupted. "Welcome back, Senior Brother Jutong." Lindong looked upon the now excited Dao Sect. He smiled at the red-eyed Jutong and said, "Welcome back, senior brother Jutong." Jutong stood up, gazing at the Dao Sect before him. Intense emotions and a smile also appeared on his face. He cupped his fists together towards Lindong and said, "Junior brother Lindong, many thanks to you for this." If Lindong had not used the ancestral stone to protect his Yuan spirit and even nourish it, it was likely that he would have long disappeared into nothingness. Lindong grinned and shook his head. He extended his hand as silver light flickered, and a spatial ancestral symbol appeared. Since senior brother Jutong has already recovered, this spatial ancestral symbol should return to its owner. Jutong was a little taken aback as he gazed at the spatial ancestral symbol. Subsequently, he looked at Lindong. The latter was smiling with an earnest look in his eyes. There was no desire for this spatial ancestral symbol within them. Jutong was silent for some time. He slowly reached out his hand to receive the spatial ancestral symbol. As he stared at the ancestral symbol, complicated feelings filled his eyes. In the end, he seemed to softly chuckle. His fingertip gently cut the air, as a faint line of blood appeared on the spatial ancestral symbol. Subsequently, it was broken with a light thrust of his finger. Crack! The blood line silently shattered as Jutong's complexion instantly turned deathly pale. He gently stroked the spatial ancestral symbol as he softly said, "Sorry for making you suffer the contamination of demonic chi with me for so many years. However, I believe that your next owner will be even more perfect than myself." Circular light rippled from the spatial ancestral symbol as a faint buzzing sound emerged. The sound seemed to similarly be filled with reluctance. Senior brother Jutong. Lindong blankly watched this scene. As an ancestral symbol controller, he naturally understood what Jutong had done. He had cut off his connection to the spatial ancestral symbol from his end, an action that would surely inflict serious damage to himself. Even his Yuan spirit had now become much more incorporeal than before. Junior brother Lindong, as an ancestral symbol controller, you should also know of the calamity this world will face in future. I believe that the spatial ancestral symbol will be more suitable for you than myself. Jutong gently smiled at Lindong, before handing back the spatial ancestral symbol. I can feel that it also believes this. Lindong's expression was complicated. He stared at the spatial ancestral symbol that flickered with silver light as he softly sighed. While he hesitated, an ice-cold hand gently gripped his hand. He tilted his head and saw Ying Huanhuan's pretty face. She softly said, "This is the spatial ancestral symbol and senior brother Jutong's choice." Lindong bitterly laughed. In the end, he nodded, before he reached out and received the spatial ancestral symbol. "Senior brother Jutong, I will not let it be overlooked and will take on the responsibility of an ancestral symbol controller." Faint light emerged from the spatial ancestral symbol. Like liquid, it stealthily merged into Lindong's palm. At this moment, he could feel an ancient and pure energy ripple within his body. Ripples emerged from the devouring ancestral symbol and the thunderbolt ancestral symbol, rejecting the spatial ancestral symbol from existing in the same body by reflex. However, gentle light quickly blossomed from the ancestral stone. Under this light, the rejection between them stealthily weakened. Silver light rippled from Lindong's body in circles. The space around him seemed like lake water at this moment, and intense ripples could be seen. Junior brother Lindong, the spatial ancestral symbol has already acknowledged you. Next, you should quickly master it. Jutong watched the spatial ancestral symbol fuse with Lindong's body as he smiled and said. Lindong nodded his head. He could feel the Yuan power within his body start to swell at an alarming speed when the spatial ancestral symbol entered his body. This caused ripples to form in his calm heart. With the reinforcement of the spatial ancestral symbol, he could finally formally try to attack the reincarnation stage. Lindong turned around and asked Ying Huanhuan to take care of Qingtan. Without further ado, his body moved and appeared on a nearby mountain peak as he immediately sat down. He currently needed to completely refine and gain control of this spatial ancestral symbol. Dazzling silver light continuously emerged from Lindong's body. Like a glorious silver sun, it drew countless gazes in Dao Sect. When Ying Huanhuan saw that Lindong had entered into a cultivation state, her jade-like hand gently waved, and cold chi turned the surroundings of the mountain peak into a layer of ice, protecting him within it. Looks like he plans to use this opportunity to attack the reincarnation stage. Ying Xuanzi was very perceptive. He had determined Lindong's aim with a single look, and immediately lamented. Who could have imagined that the little disciple from back then would so thoroughly leave him behind in the dust? Junior brother Lindong's talent is even greater than my own. Our Dao Sect will surely prosper with him around. Jutong also nodded. Even someone like himself rather admired Lindong's accomplishments. In the battle outside Yuan Gate back then, he had already completely acknowledged Lindong's strength. Then let us silently wait for him. Ying Xuanzi softly chuckled. If Lindong was able to advance to the reincarnation stage, he would truly enter the ranks of this world's apex experts. At that time, the number of people who could surpass him could be counted on one hand. Stinking big brother Lindong. He left me alone again. Qingtan pouted a little and said in a displeased manner. Ying Huan pulled her as she smiled and said, I will take care of you on his behalf. Only after hearing this, did Qingtan smile sweetly. Her large eyes looked towards the mountain peak as a slightly pained and almost undetectable look flitted across them. To be honest, being able to look at you like this is more than enough for me. On a distant mountain peak, the Flame Master shifted his gaze towards the mountain Lindong was on. With his hands behind his back, he softly said, the third ancestral symbol Her. Lindong, to have reached this level, you are truly extraordinary, however. If you intend on surpassing little junior sister, let us see if you truly have the qualifications. This video will end here.